Hello everybody and welcome back to Tehillim Treasures, sponsored by two wonderful organizations. Chazaq has been providing excellent material of inspiration and Torah learning for many years, but especially the last few years where we found ourselves stuck by a computer sometimes, and Chazaq was one of those organizations that stepped up to the plate and provides really endless opportunities for growth and inspiration. This is also sponsored by Chickens for Shabbos at chickensforshabbos.com. And I'd like to add, stop for a moment and imagine if you were in their shoes. A family of somebody who was an aguna, a family of somebody who was not able to make it to Grusha, or perhaps families of Melamdim that don't have the necessary funding sometimes to even put food on the table or buy shoes for their children. For $250, you can sponsor one family for a week. And let's be honest, that's not all that much money, and it doesn't provide them with all that much other than the bare minimum for what they need to be able to live. Grab hold of this schus, chickensforshabbos.com. We now move on to the next two chapters of Tehillim that we'll be doing tonight, Kapitel Nun Gimel and Kapitel Nun Dalid, chapters 53 and 54, as we continue through David HaMelech's timeless treasures. The 53rd chapter is remarkably similar to the 14th chapter of Tehillim. Nun Gimel and Yudalid are kemat word for word the exact same chapter. And as we mentioned, I believe in Perek Yudalid, the 53rd chapter is referring to the second Beis HaMikdash, the destruction of the second Beis HaMikdash, and the 14th chapter is referring to the destruction of the first Beis HaMikdash. First Beis HaMikdash was destroyed by Nebuchadnezzar Rasha, and that was during Galus Bavel, and the 53rd chapter was when Beis HaMikdash is destroyed by Titus HaRasha, and it begins Galus Edom, the Roman exile that we're still in today. Well, in this chapter of Tehillim, we say the following: Kuloi sog yachtov ne'elachu. Everyone is dross. I know that's a big word, but that's referring to the word sog. And together they have become depraved. The word sog is the same letters as the word gas, as in gas ruach. A gas ruach is somebody who is haughty. In fact, many of David HaMelech's Kapitl of Tehillim have to do against the idea of gaiva. David HaMelech was Onav Mikol Odom Kimat. David HaMelech has a dalet on one side and a dalet on the other side, connected by a vav. The vav is the connecting letter. The dalet means poor and impoverished. David on the outside, completely impoverished and poor. Not monetarily, he was a very wealthy person, he was the Melech. But rather it's referring to that a person expresses himself in a dull manner, in a impoverished manner. He expressed himself as being somebody who has no zich, no self. And indeed, David HaMelech, there was no gaiva there whatsoever. He was mamish tremendous onav, even though he was the king. But for him, it was ein melech b'loi am. There was no gasus haruach at all. There was no haughtiness at all. And there's an allusion to the opinion of Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Why? There's a machlokes. Rav Chia bar Ashi says that a Talmud Chacham should possess a shmini shebeshminis of gaiva, 1/64th of gaiva. In fact, there's a famous word from the Vilna Gaon, where the Vilna Gaon says, what is 1/64th? If you look at the 8th pasuk of the 8th parsha, you'll find it begins with the word Katointi mikol hachasadim. Katointi, I am small. So Yaakov Avinu says, Katointi, I am small. That is the 1/64th of zich, of gaiva, that a person is allowed to have. What is that 1/64th? It is katointi, that I am small. But Rav Nachman Rabbi Yitzchak says, no, nothing, nil, zilch, no gaiva whatsoever. The Chidah says that ein oiseh toiv, ein gam echad. There is no doer of good, there is not even one. According to the Chidah, what does that mean? Ein oiseh toiv, any amount of gaiva does not do any good. It's not good to ever have any gaiva. Why? Because ein gam echad, there is no person for whom any trace of gaiva is beneficial. Nobody benefits from gaiva. There's a story, and the story is about Reb Zisha, the Rebbe Reb Zisha of Anapoli. The Rebbe Reb Zisha was the brother of the Noam Elimelech. There was the Rebbe Reb Melech and the Rebbe Reb Zisha. And one time the Rebbe Reb Zisha of Anapoli traveled to raise money for his daughter's chasana. In those days, even today, you need to have a respectable dowry. A nadin is what they call it. And after much effort, he gets 300 rubles together. On his way back, he stays in a town. He walks around. He hears a woman crying bitterly. He asks her what's wrong. She says the woman's a widow. And she finally found a shidduch for her daughter, but she needs money. And how much does she need? The Mechutanim are asking for 300 rubles, and this is all she has. This is all she can come up with is nothing. And because of that, the 300 rubles she needs because she doesn't have anything. So it took her many months. She finally pulls it together. But now she lost the money and she doesn't know what to do. So the wedding was scheduled for the next night, and unfortunately, unless she could come up with the money, the shidduch was going to be off. The widow was beyond broken. As it is, she had nothing, and now her daughter wasn't going to be able to get married. Nobody knew who the Rebbe Reb Zisha was. The Rebbe Reb Zisha announced he had found 300 rubles. The widow was overjoyed. He had found her money. Wow, amazing. And he asked her to list off the exact denominations of the bills that he had found, that she had lost, and was it matching with the money he had found. She listed off the bills, and the Rebbe Reb Zisha went back to his hotel room. He quickly changed those rubles into the denominations that she had lost, and he said, you identified the money, now I can give you back the money. She was overjoyed, and when the Rebbe Reb Zisha came, he said, listen, I know that I found your money, but I'm asking you for 25 ruble reward for finding the lost money. People looked at him and they said, what type of person does this? You know she's a widow, you know she's desperate, you know her daughter's getting married. This is what you're doing? You're a terrible person. And the crowd started jeering him. The Rebbe Reb Zisha, who again, they didn't know who he was, he ignored their mocking, and he asked for the money, and fine. They gave him the money, the 25 rubles, and the daughter went and got married. The Rebbe Zisha comes back without any of the money. And his Rebbe, the Mezritcher Magid, who was a Talmud of the Baal Shem, heard about the story. And he asked his Talmud, I heard about the story, tell me what happened. And why did you make such a strange request from the widow? Why did you ask her for the 25 rubles? The Rebbe Zisha said, as soon as I heard the woman crying, I decided I'll give her the money. But I didn't want her to think that I'm giving my own money, so I asked her to tell me the exact denomination of the rubles, which she did. When the plan worked, I felt a little bit of gaiva. L'maisa, I had saved the day. Not only had I saved the day, but I was a tzaddik in doing so. And so I decided I need to knock myself down a little bit. So I asked for the 25 rubles kidei, in order that they could mock me. So whatever shemitz of gaiva, whatever shmini shebeshminis of gaiva that I had felt would now be removed. I went from being the hero to being the terrible person that deserved the mockery. Well, eventually the Rav of the city found out who the Rebbe Reb Zisha was, and he went to the Rebbe Reb Zisha to beg a mechila because he figured out the plan. And he said, I will forgive you on one condition. You have to promise me that the Almana will never find out who I was. The Rav promised that he would do that, and all was forgiven. It's very, very hard to reach the Madrega of the David HaMelech, and it's very hard to reach the Madrega of the Rebbe Reb Zisha. Nevertheless, when we can try to avoid feeling haughty and feeling like a Baal Gaiva, it will make us into the people that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to be. We now move on to the next kapitel, to kapitel 54, Nun Dalet. In the 54th parak of Tehillim, David HaMelech praises Hashem for saving him despite the Zifim, the Ziphites. I think that's how it's pronounced. The Ziphites. Slanderous reports in the 52nd chapter we had spoken about Doeg HaDoimi, and Doeg HaDoimi unfortunately had lost his Olam Haba because he accepted he told over the Lashon Hara about Achimelech providing bread for David HaMelech. And because of that, he had brought about the death of 85 Kohanim along with the Kohen Gadol in the city of Noiv Ir HaKohanim. Terrible story. The Medrash wonders, how is it possible that in the generation of Achav, when the Jews and the king himself worshipped idols, they were victorious in their battles, but in the days of Shaul, when the Yidden served Hashem, and they served him very righteously, they were not successful in their battles. Achav's queen, Izebel, was a terribly wicked woman. She wanted to kill all of the Nevi'im. And Oivadja, who was a Navi at the time, hid 100 Nevi'im in 2 caves, 50 in each cave. And though people knew of his actions, no one told Achav. No one gave away the secret. No one was Malshin. In the time of Shaul, there were informers. There were Malshinim. And many times when he was chasing David HaMelech, people would say, oh, that's where he is. And they would inform on David HaMelech. And because of that, the people of Ziph, they said, Haloi David mistater imanu. Isn't David hiding amongst us? Bale Lashon Hara. And that's why the generation was defeated. David understood that Lashon Hara brings churban, both to that individual and to entire communities. And we know that the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed because of Sinas Chinam. One of the great, great heroes of World War II was Reb Michal Ber Weissmandel. And Reb Michal Ber Weissmandel tried desperately to save Yidden. And he was the one who really absorbed the pain of the millions who died. It was evident on his face. He spent every waking moment of his life trying to save Yidden, and then feeling the guilt of not having saved more. And they asked him one time, he was speaking to a group of individuals, and they asked him to give some divrei musar. Maybe musar, what he had learned from the Holocaust. And he asked them a question. If I were to ask you why the Holocaust happened, what would you say? Some of you would blame it on tznius. Some people would say there was no derech eretz in the shuls. It was talking in shuls. People didn't behave properly. He said, I don't know about those reasons. But I want to quote to you the exact wording that he said. Es ist nicht übergezeigen, That was not proven. Those reasons have never been proven. But we do know that there is one reason that we know for sure why Churban has happened. He says, Das is shoin ibegitzagen. Lashon hara sinas chinam. We know for sure, bivados, that causes Churban. So if you were to ask me what causes the destruction of Klal Yisrael, what causes Churbanos, why, in my opinion, might the Holocaust have happened, said Rabbi Yechiel Spero, I don't know of any other reason that's been proven other than the Lashon Hara and Sinas Chinam that Klal Yisrael has. It's a timeless lesson. We look around the world and we see such tragedy. And we must ask ourselves, why? Why so many tragedies? People can give all types of reasons. But what Chazal have taught us, one thing is ibegitzagen. One thing is proven. Sinas chinam and Lashon hara cause destruction. We must do everything within our power to make sure that we remove that possibility for Churban from our lives. And then replace it with avas chinam. Endless love and respect for every single Yid, regardless of who they are. Until next time, sei gesund.